Hi, welcome everybody. Hope you guys can hear me okay and see me okay. Welcome to the School of Sweet Georgia live office hours for April 2024. My name is Felicia from Sweet Georgia, and today this is a chance for us to get together and chat about all of the things that have been happening behind the scenes inside the school and what people have been making, what we've all been working on, what we've been focused on for the past month or so. And yeah, just really excited to get into it and share with you guys a lot of the things that you guys have been working on. I am very excited to share with you. I actually have in this box here a bunch of projects that have been completed for the upcoming hand painted warp class. And so I'll talk a little bit about that as well, but lots and lots of things to talk about today. So we can jump in and get into it. So let me first see if I can find where my slides have come. Okay, so I'm down to one very small little monitor here where I can see everything, so everything is all kind of squished together. But yes, wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here. So this is basically what we go through and we talk about each time when we come for these live office hours. We share a little bit about what's going on, sort of top of mind, what's been going on. And then I'll be talking a lot about sort of the latest updates. So what kind of content is coming soon? What's coming up next? We'll be talking about the events that are on the calendar, what we have coming up for next month, and also talking about any questions that you might have and community. So we finish off with the big section is talking about the things and the projects that you've been making, sort of a lot of the learning that you've been doing. It's been great to see a lot of people continue on with Tour de Fleece and continue spinning a lot of things since Tour de Fleece. And so, yeah, we're really excited to share all those things with you. Now, I don't know about for you, but where it is for us right now, it is the last week of summer before school starts. And so around this time of year, we really get back into this mindset of learning. It's time to learn things again. It's time to go back to school. So if you were not aware yet, we do have a promotion going on for back to school. It's a back to school promo. And so if you have any friends who you think would enjoy the School of Sweet Georgia, who've never been, who wanted to try it, who've been thinking about it, this is actually the best time to join. So you can sort of direct them to the website. We have a coupon code on there that you can find and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is a really great time of year. A lot of people join the school at this time of year. And so there's going to be like a lot of fresh new faces, a lot of fresh voices. And it's really great because it just gives us an opportunity to meet more people. And I think it all comes back to this idea of being able to meet people who like to do the things that you do. When I started knitting, when I started weaving, all of these things, I didn't really know anybody in my close local circle who did any of these things. And so I did. I went through the internet to go find people who do these things. And it's wonderful to be able to be a part of a community and to build a community and to be with people in community who understand and appreciate and just get what you do. They just understand what it is. When you're excited about this texture or this color or that you made this, all of that excitement is great to be able to share with somebody. So, yeah, that's what we're doing right now for back to school. Now, the other things that I wanted to sort of share with you, kind of top of mind things. Let's see here. So, top of mind, we are going to talk about something that we touched on last month, and that is the idea that, like, inside our school, we do have a lot of courses. We have over 100 courses now, and these courses cover everything from weaving and spinning, knitting, crochet, tapestry, there's punch needle, there's wet felting, there's needle felting, there is, I'm missing some things, there's color and design, there's rigid heddle, there's lots and lots of different things. So there's lots of crafts. Our main ones are definitely spinning, dyeing, weaving, and knitting. So those are sort of main ones. Crochet is very in depth as well. So we have all of these courses. We have a lot of tutorials. We've been writing articles for the past number of years, and so those are going to be moved to the SweetGeorgia Yarns website so that all of the reading content can be sort of on one website. But we have a lot of content. And then the second part of what we do is we have a lot of this community. So we have members, you guys are interacting in the forums, in Discord, in meetups. So you can meet sort of like face to face on Zoom in these meetups and things like that. But finally, the third thing that I really want to sort of stress or emphasize is this the importance of taking action and actually making the things. So I know, like for myself, I love educational programming. I can watch a lot of things and like learn them by listening to them. But it's a whole other level when you actually put your hands on something and you actually do it. So a lot of the things that we're trying to encourage are, to actually look at the patterns that we're offering, make some of the patterns or modify the patterns, change them, but use them as a template and a basis to go from, or join in some of our make-alongs and events, or participate by posting something on a forum, on Discord, post a photo, and that just kind of connects people to the things that you're making. And when you sort of interact with people about something that you've made, I know it's very vulnerable. I know it's very scary to send something out into the world or to show somebody something that you've been working on. But I feel like the feedback is really, really important. And it's part of this entire process of like learning and then, looking at your work, allowing other people to look at your work, being critical, and then reiterating. So it's a bit of that kind of process. So, having said that, I want to show you guys what we have coming up. And so, typically, with this section, I talk about the upcoming courses that we have launching in the school. And I think intermixed with a lot of the courses that we're going to be launching in the school, I also wanted to share a lot about what are the make-alongs that are happening and what are the sort of the tutorials that are coming up. Where are all of the opportunities that you could take action? So as you look through all of these slides that I'm showing you, all these pictures, all of these inspirational ideas, just sort of take a note of what is going to capture your attention. What are you curious about? What would you like to follow? And I might present like 10 different things. And that is kind of what we're doing in the school. We have all of these different crafts, but there's no pressure to do all of these things. Really, just look at these pictures and then just think, oh, that one sounds interesting. I might follow that one. That one sounds interesting. I might follow that one. And then you never know where these paths will lead. So in any case, I'm going to show you what we have coming up. So the latest thing is this spinning class that has come out with Diana Twist. So Diana Twist came and she's one of the first classes, one of the first classes that we filmed here in this new studio here. So you can see this is a studio backdrop behind us here. And Diana came in to film earlier this year and created this beautiful course about spindle spinning. And she has a massive collection of spindles, beautiful handmade tools. So you can see just a few of the spindles that she's brought. But there's Turkish spindles, there's drop spindles, there's suspended spindles, and there's just a lot of content in this course to really inspire you and get you into improving your spindle spinning. I remember when I attended SOAR, it's a spinning retreat many years ago, and I remember watching people walking through the halls spinning as they were walking, and they were like spinning like it was nothing, like chewing gum. It was so easy for them. And I found that really just so impressive. And I never thought that I would be able to get my spindle skills up to that level. But yeah, this is definitely something that if you are intrigued by spindle spinning, then this is something that's going on right now. Course is just launched. You guys can check out all of the videos. I did recently try to print myself a Turkish spindle on my 3D printer, but I have not yet had any success. So I'm still working on that, but that is something that you guys can try if you're interested. The next thing, I'm kind of lumping them together in terms of crafts. The next thing, if you are interested in spinning, is that we do have these Monday evening meetups with Greta. And so Greta meets on the third Monday of every month. She meets at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's a meeting that's on Zoom. It's very warm, very just encouraging meeting. And the meeting is not necessarily even specifically about spinning. It's about fiber prep. So it's about how do you prepare your fiber for spinning, because the fiber determines what kind of yarn you get at the end of the day. It can determine all sorts of things about your draft, how you choose to spin it, how fine it will be, what the final intention of that yarn might be. So all of those decisions have to be made before you sit down at the wheel or at your e-spinner or with your spindle. All of those decisions about the fiber have to be made in a stage prior to actually sitting down to spinning. And so that's what the fiber prep side of it is. So it might be, learning to comb fiber to make all the fibers super parallels to make a worsted spin, or you want to learn to spin woolen, so maybe you're carding, hand carding. And in this case, a lot of the talk recently has been about making rollags using either hand cards or blending board to prep rollags to spin from. And rollags, I feel like we are just scratching the surface of all the things that could be done with rollags, because I have seen members in the past couple of months use rollags as a way of mixing and blending colors in fractals, mixing and blending colors to make Fibonacci yarns. Like, there's a lot of different color and blending sort of techniques that are going on just by the act of making these little rolled up tubes of fiber. Plus, they are so cute to look at. They're so pretty. And so every photo of rollags is just so enticing. And so this is something that if you were interested in, if this piques your interest, I encourage you guys to check out these meetings with Greta on Monday. The next thing is that we have been hosting this idea of this multi-craftual maker group. Again, it's a Monday night group, and this one is not just open to the school members, but it's open to like the wider community. So anybody in the Sweet Georgia community, anybody in the public, anybody who would like to come and spin with us and just hang out with us on a Monday evening. We're doing these groups. Originally, they were on the first Monday of every month, and then we realized that the first Monday has so many stat holidays here in Canada. So I'm going to move them to the third Monday of the month. And hopefully that doesn't sort of interfere with anything else coming up. So the next one is going to be September 16th, I believe. But yeah, what we're doing in this multi-craftual maker group is the idea of, taking something from one craft and then being able to use it in some other craft. So maybe your craft is dyeing and you're dyeing fiber, and then you take that fiber, then you spin it, and then you take that hand spun yarn, and then maybe you weave it or you crochet it or you knit it or something else. So this skein of yarn here is it's amazing. It is a 3-ply lace weight yarn. It's a chain plied lace weight yarn that was spun from a hand painted fiber. I did not spin it. There was a sample spinner who spun all of this yarn, and it was for the book that I wrote a couple of years ago called Dying to Spin and Knit. And so it was glorious. This yarn was beautiful. And so the idea is that what we wanted to do, so we wanted to take the next couple of months and focus on spinning gradient yarns. So something like a hand-painted fiber or colorful fiber, or even if you pull from a bunch of different colors of fiber, pull them together, prepare them so that they make a smooth transition between all of those fiber colors, spin them in that order, and then either you chain ply to make a 3-ply to preserve all that color, or you can make a bunch of different there's a bunch of different ways that you can make a gradient yarn. And so you can take the next couple of months to sort of explore how we make a gradient yarn. So that's just one of the techniques. This lace weight yarn, I think it ended up being something like 800 yards out of 100 grams. And then it was knit into a giant circular pie shawl. It was a lace shawl. Actually, Greta modeled it for me for the book. And yeah, I just remember it's a core memory for me going down to Gary Point. It was very windy, trying to take a picture of this shawl. Anyways, it was made with this gradient yarn. So think about, like, if you want to join with us and spin some gradient yarn this fall, think about what you could make with a gradient skein. Maybe it's the yoke of a colorwork sweater, maybe it's a hat. There's lots of different ways that you could use your yarn. So that is one thing that you could jump in and participate on as well. Also, when it comes to spinning your yarn and using it, there is a course that is going to be coming out soon called Spin to Knit a Hat with Rachel Smith. And so this one, you can see these are all hand-spun yarns being used in various ways for a hat. This is like working with different samples and just making little swatches. And yeah, this class is going to be coming out soon. And we've shown a couple of photos here previously of the hat pattern. But we have a hat pattern that is coming out for this course as well. So if you think that maybe you're saving up some hand spun and you want to participate in this class a little bit later, or if you would like to, listen to what Rachel has to say and then spin a yarn specifically for this purpose to knit a hat. I think that these would all be great projects to work on this fall. Um, Also, when it comes to hats, if you don't want to spin your yarn first, we do have this project that is coming out actually, I think next week, no, in 2 weeks, I think, September 12th, I believe is the date. But this class is going to be coming out and it's with Andrea Rangel, and it is a knitting color working class. And the idea is that she wants to teach you how to design your own stranded color work. And so we're going to do that design. We're going to do some swatching. We're going to play with color. We're going to sort of experiment with how do different color combinations work? How do they look in terms of stranded color work? Is this a good idea to put them together or not together? All of that kind of stuff. So this class is coming out very soon, couple weeks, and you can see I did have to show you like a preview shot of what the actual hat looks like. I believe the hat's called Wildflower. There's so many names in here, but I think it's called Wildflower, and that's the hat. Two colors. If you wanted to, you could use handspun in here for sure. But yeah, there is a little bit of information about figuring out, from your swatch, what is your gauge? How do you use your gauge to make your measurements? How do you sort of calculate and extrapolate an entire knitting pattern from your swatch? There's a lot of information in here. And yeah, so I am very, very excited about making something in that class. I've been looking at different stranded colorwork designs. So you could use, I mean, Andrea has written 2 books about this. So she has many, many um, patterns, and some of them are very cheeky patterns. They're really, really cute. So this pattern happens to be like the flower with the leaves and everything like that. But in her book, she has other, stranded colorwork patterns. There's like ones that are ducks. There's pigs. I think there's zombies. I think there's a whole bunch of very funny, punny kind of patterns in there that you can check out. So yeah, lots of inspiration, lots of ideas. So hopefully I'll see lots of hats in the coming months. The next thing that I should mention is that we do have these crafternoons, which are another sort of meetup. It's a very casual meetup. This is really scheduled twice a month on Mondays during the day. So 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. They are hosted by Robin she's one of our community moderators. And so she will hang out with you twice a month. Talking about whatever it is that you want to bring. So, whatever project you want to bring. And this group has been really just really full of energy and ideas. And so every so often they come up with an idea of something that they want to do together or make together or create together. And in the past, they've done sort of like just impromptu make along where they all decided that they wanted to make something that was purple. They have also had one where they picked a shawl that they all wanted to work on. And now, this coming Monday, I believe, they're going to cast on for sweater. So they're going to do a sweater make along starting this Monday. They're going to cast on new sweater knit along. So if you want to participate and join in with them, you should jump into that call because it's really, really, it's really nice, and everybody there is so lovely. The next thing that's coming up a little bit later on is October is Socktober. October is always Socktober. And so in Socktober, you can talk about, we have in the past, always released some sort of a class about knitting socks. So either knitting socks from the top down, we've knit socks from the toe up, we've measured your feet in order to make custom size socks. We've done lots of different kinds of socks. I think last year we did 2 at a time socks, so knitting 2 socks at the same time on a pair of very long circular needles. So we've done all of that as well. I have previously published a lot of content about like circular sock knitting machines in October. I did one that was about cranking handspun for knitting handspun socks on a CSM. But Rachel also has this class. Rachel Smith, she's also had this class called Spin to Knit Socks. And so that class is all about different yarn structures that you could use in order to make very hard wearing socks. So sock yarn that will last a lot of sort of friction and pressure and all of that kind of stuff. So that is something I would encourage you to check out as well. But yeah, it's October. October is basically a celebration of all things to do with socks, whether it's contrasting heels and toes. Maybe it's striped socks. Maybe it's Frankenstein socks. Maybe it's stockinette socks. Maybe it's rib socks. Maybe it's hand-spun socks. All the different kinds of socks that you could possibly make. And yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys are doing to kind of like push the boundaries of what you've done with socks. There's even a thing about like knitting one sock inside another sock, and then when you're finished, you pull the sock out from the one sock out from the other sock. So it's kind of like a bit of a magic trick. But yeah, there's lots of fun things that you can do with socks. It's not just one thing. So the next thing, okay, so we talked about spinning a little bit, we talked about knitting a little bit, and so I want to talk a little bit about weaving. And so weaving, this past year, we've come out with 3 courses that were all sort of interrelated. They are all supplementary weft, block weft, supplementary weft block weave structures. It's a very long term. Supplementary weft block weave structures. And so one of them was overshot. And so you can see these designs here. These are an overshot design. There's overshot, there was crackle, and there's summer and winter. And so we thought, you know, you've maybe had a chance to watch some of these courses. Maybe you had a chance to try a little bit of the overshot out. I know that there's a lot of members who are like curious about, oh, I think I could try the crackle maybe. I'm interested in giving it a try. And so we thought that for the next sort of 3-4 months, starting September, we would look at a little bit more of a focus on these block weave structures in our Monday SOS weaving group. So again, on Monday evenings, the second Monday of every month, we have a weavers meeting. And so the weavers meeting, we were, you know, meeting and talking about whatever we happen to be weaving. But again, it's nice to have sort of a bit of a focus around the things that we're like learning, things that we're kind of investigating, and all of this kind of thing. So if we're taking time to sort of investigate the idea of block weaves together. So maybe you want to do overshot, or maybe instead you're doing summer and winter, but whatever it is, we can talk about that during those hour-long sessions. Again, if you can't make these times, the session is recorded and then it's put up and it's archived in the website in the meeting section. But this pattern, the photograph that I'm showing right here, this is actually a project pattern that is launching, and it's for some table runners. And so you can see we're using 5/2 cotton for the supplementary pattern weft. So the color, that pink, magenta pink, plummy kind of color, that is the pattern weft. And then on the left-hand side, the star fashion version, that one, the white, is actually the pattern weft. And then in both of these table runners, the background is navy. And so it's really, really lovely. It's really kind of like a reverse idea of what you might normally encounter with sort of traditional overshot kind of pictures, kind of designs. But yeah, having that dark background in the back is kind of nice. And so this is something that's also inspired me to create something for my own sort of block weave study. So I talked about this definitely in the Monday meeting. But I think my plan for this block weave study group is to wind a warp to do overshot. And I'm going to do navy 8/2 cotton overshot, and I'm going to put it in the background. And rather than doing sort of a tighter set like with these table runners where, you know, your household textiles want to be a little bit more firm, I'm going to have a looser set. And then instead, I'm going to pop in some fingering weight sock yarn. So fingering weight, knitting yarn. Knitting yarn is very elastic, it's very stretchy, and so it can kind of like sit or float within this ground fabric. So that's something I'm going to try. I'm going to make this a very big long warp so that we can put it on a loom and then weave a number of scarves. And so I'm going to leave that warp here at the loom, at the studio. And so hopefully some people on the team here, some of our Sweet Georgia members, can also kind of jump in and weave a scarf as well. So this gives everybody an opportunity to kind of try weaving a little bit of overshot, and then we'll see where we go from there. So that's kind of what we're going to get started on soon. And here is like a little sneak peek of what was on my loom at home. And I'm finishing the Weaving Hand Painted Warps course right now. Almost all of the stuff is done. I just have to wash all of the pieces and then record a bit of a conclusion to talk about them. But I'm so excited about these scarves. They are lovely and vibrant and amazing. I have like one last project that I'm tying onto the loom. This dummy warp system has worked fantastic. So I'm going to talk about all of that in the class that's going to be coming up later on this fall. So if that kind of piques your interest, the idea of dyeing some of your own warp, making your own sort of decisions about how they go onto the loom, and then weaving it in sort of a warp-faced method. Yeah, this is definitely this is my happy place. This is a sneak peek because I want you to know that we have not forgotten about rigid heddle weaving at all. We have actually new things coming for rigid heddle. And so we have some new patterns coming, and we're working with Amanda Wood. And so this is just a sneak peek. I can't give you any more hints besides this picture, but you can see there's a rigid heddle loom and there's some yarn on it, and it's pretty. And so things are coming in that sort of direction. So if you have a rigid heddle loom, I encourage you guys to keep using it. We're going to do some stuff with that in November as well. And just really, really excited to continue supporting this. And I think this is the last slide, but this is the idea. I am currently working on a double weave blanket. It's a plain weave, double weave blanket, and it is something that's going to be going into Weft magazine, which is the new weaving magazine that JC Boggs is creating with Lisa Graves. And that's going to be coming out next year, 2025. I think it's April 2025, April, May 2025, something like that. And so as part of that, I'm writing this article about double weave. How does it work? How do you weave, plain weave, and double weave? And we have all done this because we made the course about it in the school already. And so if you wanted to weave double weave, plain weave, double weave, you can already go to that class and try that. I happen to be weaving it with these 4 colors right now in a blanket. This is the BFL and Silk DK, so it's a thicker weight. In the course that we created, we used the thinner weight. It was the BFL and Silk Fine, so it made a thinner weight blanket. This one I want to make a heavier weight blanket. Yeah, these are the colors that I chose. And I feel like it would be very, very easy to swap out these colors for any other colors that you want. But this is going to be coming next year. And when we do double weave next year, we really want to kind of like push it to a little bit of the next level. So we've been doing this 4 shaft, plain weave, double width, all of that kind of stuff. So the next step is to take it to sort of 8 shafts. And how do we go do 8 shafts, make maybe like a twill version of the blanket? What does the threading look like? What does the tie-up look like? How does it work? And how is it different from what we've already done so far? So that's something that we can explore next year as well. So I hope that in one of these slides somewhere that something kind of like piques your interest, something you find intriguing, something you find, oh, that sounds curious, and then you kind of want to follow that rabbit hole a little bit. So I hope that there's a little bit for everybody there. Next, I want to just share really quickly about the upcoming events. So this is a look at our calendar for September. We have our Crafternoons, like I mentioned, with Robins. They are basically every other Monday. The second Monday of every month is the weaving meeting. The third Monday of the month is the multi-craftual meetup. And second, third, fourth. The fourth Monday of the month is the fiber prep meeting. Yes. And then Taking Back Friday is our live stream that we do on the second Friday of every month. And that's just a live stream that we do in YouTube, public live stream about all things that are happening at Sweet Georgia. And then the last Thursday of every month is this session where we're doing a live sort of catch up on all the things that are happening for the school at Sweet Georgia. We also have on Fridays, you can see in purple, these are all community-led meetups on Zoom. So these are members who just want to get together and hang out and make things together. And this is a quiet making time. So typically everybody joins at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and you kind of put yourself on mute. And then you are working away on the things that you're working on, and you can do so quietly while everybody else is there. And we've all found that psychologically this makes people quite a bit more productive. Like you get a lot done during these sessions because you have this awareness that somebody else is there. They're not necessarily in the same room as you, but just being on Zoom with you makes you feel compelled to continue doing the thing that you're doing. It's very, very interesting experience. And then after that hour, if you wanted to stay, you can sort of unmute yourself, chat about what you've made, what progress you've made, and it becomes a little bit more social after that. So you can get all the things that done and get some work in on that Friday. The other thing is that we have these community-led sessions on Wednesday as well. And so these are meetings that have spontaneously sprung up because members wanted to do them. And so one of them is a meeting that is focused on inkle loom weaving, so inkle weaving. And then there's another meetup that is focused on tapestry weaving. And so I'll just show you that in a second here. But just a reminder that these Multi-Craftual Monday meetups, third Monday of the month, I had to slightly change these times. So any of the times where I'm hosting, I've had to move the time from 5 o'clock to 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. So just a quick note that I had to make that little bit of a schedule change. And then the topic focused meetups, the weaving meetup, again, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time if it's with me. And then the fiber prep meetup with Greta is at 5 o'clock. And so you can see these beautiful roll eggs that she's just recently created as part of sort of her demonstration for the members who show up for the fiber prep. These community-led meetups, like I mentioned. So because these were inspired by members wanting to have these meetings, we have a inkle weaving meetup September 4th, Wednesday, September 4th. And then there is a tapestry meetup September 18th. And so hopefully one of the members that you'll meet in there is Pearl. And Pearl, you can see, has been experimenting a lot, sampling a lot with tapestry since we started the tapestry study group, like maybe it was 2 years ago, I believe. And so Pearl has been doing a lot of tapestry weaving, and you can see one of her amazing sort of wedge weave samples here that she was working on. It's just phenomenal. And yeah, you can see a lot of her progress through the years, through many, many posts. And Pearl has posted a lot about tapestry. And so she even mentioned recently that like watching Jana's classes over like more than one time, she's learning things each time because she might have missed something the first time and then catches it again the second time. So like continuing to sort of review a lot of this content has been helpful. So that's really, really great. And if you are interested in inkle or tapestry, then I encourage you guys to join in with those sessions. And the other message about this is really that, like, if you have any sort of classes or if you have any topics that you would like to do sort of on your own, or if you are interested in getting together with some other members to talk about another kind of craft that maybe we haven't created a meeting for, like maybe you all want to get together and talk about crochet, or if everybody wants to talk about punch needle, or something about specifically about rigid heddle weaving. Like if there's some topic that you want to do that we have not yet offered, please do reach out and just let us know because we can make these things happen. We can definitely make this happen. So I want to jump in and talk very briefly about the community. And this is just really a reminder to let everybody know where to find things. So under the community tab, you go to the website, there's a community tab, and all of these things are available. So these are really about how to join the community discussion forums, how to get connected to the Discord chat. And then we have these things called interest groups. And these interest groups are where a lot of conversation is happening around like the fiber prep, around the multi-shaft weaving studies, like the block weaves that we're going to be doing is all going to be hosted in here under the interest groups section. Our events calendar is what I just reviewed for you guys. And the meeting recording. So if you were not able to make any of the meetings that we do on those Monday meetings, they are recorded and posted here. Okay. And then these are the links to all of the Zoom meetups where you can get connected to everybody. So that's just a quick thing about that. And then Discord as well. So Discord is a little bit of a different way of communicating with members and people in the community. Yeah, so when you connect your SOS account to your Discord account, it will kind of highlight your name in orange. So then you're able to recognize other SOS members as well. But there's just so much information in Discord, a lot of people sharing their projects, their progress, asking questions, helping each other. So it's also really, really great, very fast paced place to be. Now, Q&A. Um, I thought I wanted to share this one with you because there were some questions. There was a question in this little thread here on the community where someone was asking about how do you finish Jagger Spun Zephyr. Zephyr is like a very popular yarn for weaving. It's like a 12 over 18 sort of wool silk. It's beautiful, weaves beautifully, amazing. And this member was asking, how do you go about wet finishing it? And Laura Fry has taught our class on how to wet finish wool fabric or how to wet finish hand woven fabric. But she did this amazing illustration here of what actually happens when you wet finish and block and compress, like hard press your fabric after you weave it. And so she basically said that she wove some of this plain weave using plasticine and then basically squashed it. And so this, I mean, it's so simple, but it is such a brilliant and obvious understanding of this is exactly what happens to your fabric. This is what happens to your fabric when you wet finish it and then press it. And all of the threads will sort of deflect in and around each other and they will stay like that. So they kind of meld into each other. They become thinner. This is how you can make your fabric shinier, a little bit glossier, all of these kinds of things. Yeah, so I encourage you guys to follow up with this thread. And then also Laura has a number of posts on her own blog where she's illustrated more of this because this is just plain weave, but she also does another one in twill and she has much more discussion about that. So I encourage you to check out Laura's blog about that as well. You can find the link through that community thread as well. There was another question from Elena about planning colors. How do you plan colors for your weaving projects, especially the larger ones? Pen and paper, software? I'm wondering what your process is, if you have one. So this question was, I saved this question because it's such a big question. And it's very tricky actually. And so Vicky answered the question and she talked about how she does some pen and paper, she does some software, she goes back and forth, all of this kind of stuff as well. And so you can see here, this is the photo of me threading the double weave blanket that is currently going onto the loom. And I showed you those 4 colors that I picked for the double weave. There was like a deep cove, there was like a firewood brown, there was another green, I think it was like a deep olive green, and then there was a sage green. And so these 4 colors, I was given sort of a green theme. And so kind of trying to work with greens and browns and all these kinds of things. But first I do draw, like I have a sketchbook where I draw out like a rough idea of where I want stripes to be, where I want colors to land. And then I'm also like picking colors from the color palette. So either using our color deck or using color chips. I'll sort of like figure out the colors from there. And then I might jump into software and try to like more visually, more mathematically map out how I want the colors to appear in the fabric. And then I'm back to like pen and paper and then sketching it out and doing math. So doing a lot of the math by hand and then going back into software. There's a lot of going back and forth and in and around, and it just feels very circular. And I imagine that anybody sort of observing this process would just think it's crazy and it's not straightforward. But I feel like, you know, this is part of what it is to be somebody who's making something. Like I watch my dad, he's a painter, and I've watched him paint on canvases and just kind of like, you know, you come back to it in a different light, in a different time of day, and then you tweak it and maybe change something, or I don't like this here, we'll change that. And that's kind of what we're doing when we're planning these weaving projects as well. We're kind of looking at the plan, thinking about it. Does this look good? This looks good. And you're kind of like reiterating and playing with the on paper over and over again before you can actually commit to anything. And that the difference is that once it's on the loom, once you've picked the colors and wound all the warps and dressed it on the loom, you kind of can't make changes, or changes have become very challenging to do. So all of that thinking and tweaking and planning has to happen on paper in front of you before you go to the loom. So I'll write more about that and answer the question in writing as well. But I think that the process is very iterative, and I think that any sort of struggle with it feeling kind of like crazy making, like you're going around in circles, not being able to decide, I think is because once it's on the loom, you're it's very final. It feels very final. And so that's why, yeah, we have to make these decisions before we get started. Because even as I'm threading the loom, I was just thinking, oh, I don't like these colors. I don't like how I've done this. But it's too late now. Okay, so let's talk about your work now. So we were talking about roll eggs and the popularity of roll eggs and all the things happening with roll eggs right now. And so this is one of the ones I wanted to share with you. This is by Brenda. Brenda has been making roll eggs with the fiber that we dyed for the Sweet Georgia Secret Stash Club before June. It's called Lightning Rod. And so this particular fiber colorway had kind of like a CMYK kind of feel to it. So there was white, there was sort of a blue color, there was a magenta kind of color, and there was a yellow color. And so some of the colors overlapped and blended to make other colors. So there's a little bit of orange in there, there's a little bit of purple in there. And I have seen this one particular hand-dyed fiber colorway spun in all sorts of different ways. And it's been really, really fun to watch everybody sort of take this color, break it apart, and make different things out of it. And so Brenda has been making a roll eggs with a blending board. Um, and the dowels that came with it. But she said the dowels were too big and too awkward to hold. So now she switched to using knitting needles. And so she had some questions about being able to spin this in, I guess, a more consistent way. So she's made all these roll eggs, but now she's starting to spin them. And she's finding that when you spin the roll eggs, kind of like the middle comes out. And so there's a whole thread. If you continue on with this thread, it's an excellent thread because Kim McKenna, she jumps in and gives all of these tips about how to spin roll eggs without having them all fall apart and things like that, how to maintain them. And so this is one, if you're interested in spinning roll eggs, making roll eggs, spinning woolen, I encourage you to check out this thread that's going on here and jump in if you can. But that is really lovely to see all of these fibers being transformed into these beautiful roll eggs. Here's another one. I wanted to show you these two because they are the same colorway. So this color and this color, same hand-painted fiber, same color. But Leanne has chosen to do it a totally different way. So we were talking about making fractal yarns and, splitting things up based on math. And Leanne decided to split up her chunks based on the Fibonacci sequence. So the Fibonacci sequence is like a sequence of numbers where like you take one number, you add it to the previous number, and then you get the next number. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and so on and so on and so on. And so she divided all of her fiber into these weights. So she has one strip that's 1 gram, another strip that's 1 gram, another strip that's 2 grams, one that's 3 grams, 5 grams, 8 grams, 13 grams, 25 grams, and 38 grams. And then she was going to spin all of that together and then ply it with a natural yarn. Greta's saying that she also is spinning this lightning rod at home, and she's going to be comparing yarns at the next fiber prep meeting. So if you're interested, please do come to that fiber prep meeting and you can see how everybody is spinning this fiber. I think it's fascinating because there's so many different ways that you could approach one hand-painted skein. And so this is one of the things that comes up in the course that Kim McKenna has taught previously this year. It's called How to Spin a Hand-Painted Braid 5 Ways. 5 different ways to take one colored braid and spin it in all these different ways. So this was a very, very interesting approach. But you can see this is the gorgeous yarn that has come out of it. It's beautiful. So it was plied with a single of merino and silk, and Leanne says, this might be my most consistent spin yet. So congratulations on that. It is absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful yarn. This is another yarn that is spun from our sort of exploration of fractal spinning. Linda spun this one, and this is a 4-ply fractal. That's a ton of spinning. So 4-ply fractal, and there was a little bit of a break in between. If you follow her thread, she talked about how she's spinning this on the Daedalus Sparrow e-spinner, and I think that at some point between, well, halfway through, her flyer somehow was broken or malfunctioning, and so she had to send it back to Daedalus. They fixed it, and then she got it back, and then she was able to finish spinning the last 2 bobbins and then plying it all together. But it's fantastic. This is like a marathon of spinning. So wonderful job on this fiber. And it just love how, like, because it's 4-ply, it's going to be extra round, and it's 4-ply, and it's mixing and blending all those colors in a really, really interesting way. So very, very cool. We have more spinning photos. This is by Maureen. Maureen has created a number of photo galleries. So many of these other posts are sort of photos that are embedded into posts in threads in the community, but Maureen has created a bunch of photo galleries, and you are absolutely welcome to do this too. As sort of an SOS member, we encourage you guys to make your own photo galleries to sort of collect together a number of photos that you're working on if you're working on a specific project or a big project. It's a great way to kind of showcase a bunch of things. But Maureen has been learning to spin initially. And so these are some of her progress photos from her first spinning. And then she has another album where she started to do color experiments. So playing with colors. So this is yellow versus purple, opposites on the color wheel, mixing them together, all of these kinds of things. So she's also learning to spin with different kinds of fibers. So spinning fibers that have different fiber content, and just so much learning and experience being shared here. So really always excited to see everyone's photos. There's more of the wedge weave that Pearl was sharing earlier. So this is actually, these wedge weave sort of instructions came out of a box from Gist. So Gist Yarn makes these quarterly subscription boxes, and I believe the April Discovery box was designed with Rebecca Mezov. Rebecca Mezov is a tapestry weaver and artist, and she's sharing this idea, this technique of wedge weave, and so working with that kind of technique. And I think it just looks so cool because the wedge weave causes the selvages to kind of poke out in these bumpy sort of ways. And so interesting to kind of get away from the grid of straight lines, straight vertical and straight horizontal. And all of a sudden, it just feels very, a little bit, a little bit off center, but at the same time, very balanced. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. So if you're interested in learning and kind of diving down this rabbit hole of wedge weave, I think that that's a very interesting place to go as well. Really beautiful. This is a photo of Kimona's first inkle weave band. It's a lovely photo. I love sort of the, um, yeah, all of this depth is great. So beautiful photo, nice lighting, all of this kind of thing. But Kimona is basically, she said that she's had this inkle loom for a while and has figured out how to use it. So she's been making these, she's been making this band. You can follow her on her Instagram here, Creative Kimona. And she's been traveling a lot. She's been teaching. She's been doing a lot of things in the fiber arts. And so it's always interesting to see what she's been working on. But she's made this inkle weave band, and she's working on another one right now as well. And so I think all of these things have given me some inspiration to pull out my loom. I was talking to Robin yesterday or this earlier this week about how she encouraged me to get the Inklet loom, and I have somewhat assembled it. I didn't actually glue any of the pieces in, but I've somewhat assembled it, but I still not actually put any yarn on it. And so I just keep seeing everyone's inkle bands and thinking, oh, I should do that. Here's one from Meredy. So this is Meredy's band. This is their first inkle band. She says, I finished the band. It's a great learning exercise and thinking about what to do next. Yeah, so I think that you could get started with just, something very simple. There's plain weave, there's some color, and there's color effects in here. You could play with different colors. You could like make something wider. Then there's so many patterns that you could sort of explore. There's just so many things to explore. Yeah. This is fantastic though. But I love this first band that you've done. It looks very consistent. The weaving looks great. And then if you follow this thread here, Meredith also shares a video that she found helpful about how to make nice selvages when you're weaving these ankle bands. So thank you. This one is by Kathleen. So Kathleen has been doing a little bit of exploration and some different uh, some different some different crafts. And so one of the things that she's been sort of exploring is this idea of embroidering on knitting. And so I've seen this more recently, like a lot of people are interested in doing embroidery on knitting. And here she's using sort of her swatch, she's a stockinette swatch, and she's using her knitted stitches as a guide for her embroidery. And so she's just testing out a bunch of ideas. I really like what's going on here. It looks kind of like woven, plain weave, colors kind of going through here. That looks like a nice sort of like patch going on here. This looks like monk's belt kind of thing. I see weaving on this knitting, but I know that it's also embroidery, so it's kind of a weird mix in my brain of all the things, but I think it looks really cool. And so she's saying that now I can think about using similar techniques on sweaters, shawls, mitts, and really any piece of knitting. And I love these, like they're like little grids. These are little woven grids. That looks so cool. And then these dots, and this looks like moss stitch, but it's like a two-colored moss stitch because the stitches here look almost like pearl bumps on the knitting side. So there's so many things that are sort of like combined here. Yeah, fantastic. So there's lots of exploration, lots of new ideas here. And Kathleen has also been working on another craft. And so she's been sort of experimenting with punch needle as well. And so if you follow this thread, you can see her finished project because she finished the entire sort of frame and then finished a binding for it, which looks fantastic and really, really effective. But I like this picture. This is like her in progress picture. I like this picture because it shows sort of the painter's tape that is being used to bind the cut edges of the monk's cloth so that the cloth is not unraveling as you're working on it. I thought that that was already a great tip. But she said that she kind of like had these kits and then she was worried about, I guess, like kind of messing up her materials and things like that. And so then didn't really end up using them. So she had to like push herself to kind of dive in and actually do it. And once she's done it, she realizes, oh yeah, she had a lot of fun working on this little bird. This is in Briggs and Little Heritage, and she's going to be working on her next project soon. So excited to see all of that. And I love sort of like this, the revisiting punch needle idea as well. Fantastic. And then this is the last project that I wanted to share for today, but this is kind of also like a bit of a back to school project. This is designed and woven by Leanne. And so if you follow her thread here, I encourage you to go check out her thread. These were woven on a rigid heddle loom using just mallow. And mallow is a slubby cotton, so it's a thick and thin kind of cotton. And so she designed these for her daughter, who is going away to college in this month for the start of school. And so she designed these placemats for her, and they are woven where the weft color is kind of alternating. So it creates quite a different effect, right? If you look at the middle of the warp is white, and then you have a black stripe, and then you have a white stripe, and then a black stripe, and it's the same on the other side. But the fact that sort of using a different weft color in here, so this is the black weft, and this is the white weft, and they already create very, very different looking designs just by changing the color of the weft. I think it's fascinating, actually. Yeah, you look at them and it's a bit of like an illusion. What do you with these stripes? This is the black stripe. This is the gray stripe. Where do these stripes come from? All of these kinds of different effects, but they all go together. They're matching, but they're opposite. Yeah, and this is kind of like a basket weave that's going on in the center. So really, really lovely, and I think it's so special to have sort of hand woven textiles from your family with you, and it's like a nice, lovely it's just like a nice, lovely piece of home to have with you. So I love that, and I love this project. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Leanne. And so that is basically the end of that. So that is basically what we have to share for this month. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that one of those initial slides at the beginning of, talking about all of the things that are coming up, hopefully one of those has been intriguing for you and you might say, oh, that's something that I'd like to try this fall. Maybe seeing some of these really inspiring projects that other members have been working on and making has sort of encouraged you to like either pull out your spinning wheel again, pull out your e-spinner, or maybe like get all your punch needle supplies back out again, or try something new that you haven't tried before. I encourage you guys to try that now because this is back to school time. It is September. I do find that at this sort of time of the year, there's a burst of energy to like try something new, learn something new. What am I going to dive into? What am I going to get started with? And so we have lots and lots of things to do this fall, and just encouraged to see what you join. And hopefully we'll see you either in a Zoom call, or we'll see you on the forums, or we'll see you in Discord. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you guys in one of those places soon. All right, thanks, and bye for now.